guys, welcome back. I actually wanted to end the previous lecture a little earlier so I could show this to you. As I told you, I spent 2 summers in Russia. I can understand the language. I speak it pretty well. I understand it decently. I speak it all right, but I can read it really well. Okay, so let's go ahead and look here. This is how you would write restaurant, right, in English. This is the way it would be spelled out on a marquee. This is the way you would write it. Russians tend to write, for the most part, in cursive. So you have to learn the print version and the cursive as well. So it's, if you were to read it in English, it would be Pt2. It's actually restaurant. Restaurant. McDonald's, it's a popular one. Okay, that's how I spell McDonald's. Please forgive the D's. I write like a 5-year-old. If you were to read it, you wouldn't know what that is. It would be Macoalx. It's actually McDonald's. So you see this everywhere. Alright, so I going over there as I was 19 the first time I went. I knew a little bit of Russian. I was still really uncomfortable. I actually had to get over that pretty fast because I was over there without an interpreter at one point. Someone coming from Russia over here with no knowledge of English, because remember, she was a serf. She was somebody who was poor, doesn't have enough money to get an education in English, would be very difficult for her. Okay, imagine going from this to this. It would have been hard. Okay, so keep that in mind when we're reading this, alright? Okay, so we ended up on an incredibly sad note right here, right? The reality that she had, how lonely she is. If you can imagine, she goes up to the tenement and just talks to herself, right? Who am I? What am I? What do I want to do with my life? Where is America? Is there an America? What is this wilderness in which I'm lost? Okay, this is her reality. She has this identity crisis. She probably thought she knew who she was and what she wanted. This is the reality of America. Who is she? What does she want with her life? Can she become successful in this new America? Okay, and I read earlier this short paragraph about her life. It's the jungle all over again, right? Okay, it's the jungle. She doesn't have a bed. She sleeps on a mattress. There's rats everywhere. This is not what she wanted. This isn't what she signed up for, okay? But she doesn't give up, and there's something about that. She just does not give up. Okay, she wants to better herself here in America. And I love that she fights back against, what does she call her? The Black Witch of Greed. Okay, I love that she fights her at the bottom of 2320. Okay, she just loses it. I don't want the tea. I don't want your herring, I said with terrible boldness. I only want to go home. I want the evening to myself. You fresh mouth, you, cried the old witch. You learned already too much in America. I want no clock watches in my shop. Out you go. I was driven out to cold and hunger. I could no longer pay for my mattress on the floor. I no longer could buy the bite in my mouth. I walked the streets. I knew what it is to be alone in a strange city among strangers. Okay, so she's like, you know what, I'm done. I'm just done, right? I'm done with it. And I love that, especially when the old witch says, you learned already too much in America. And I've told you all, right? I've told you all. And one of the things I love about this country is we're rebellious. Okay, we were built out of rebellion. How people don't think that we're going to be rebellious is beyond me, but we're built out of rebellion, and we'll argue and we'll fight it. This is what she does. She's like, heck yeah, she's learned a little bit about America. Okay, I laughed through my tears. So I learned too much already in America because I wanted the whole evening to myself. Well, America has yet to teach me still more. How to get not only the whole evening to myself, but a whole day a week like the American workers. That sweatshop was a bitter memory, but a good school. It fitted me for a regular factory. I could walk in boldly and say I could work at something, even if it was only sewing on buttons. So you realize this, right? She takes this education. She takes the jobs if she can. The jobs that maybe no one else wants to do. But she takes them, she learns, and she moves on. Gradually, I became a trained worker. I worked in a light, airy factory, only 8 hours a day. My boss was no longer a sweater and a blood squeezer. The first freshness of the morning was mine, and the whole evening was mine. All day Sunday was mine. Now I had better food to eat. I slept in a better bed. Now I even looked and dressed up like an American born. Right? So she has accomplished a lot, you all. Right? She's gone from this little timid mouse to, she's like, she has her little clothes. She has her new dress and her hat, and she's not taking abuse anymore. And she's having days off. Important, right? You need to have days off when you're working. Hey, but inside of me, I knew that I was not yet an American. I choked with longing when I met an American born and I could say nothing. Okay, again, something cried dumb in me. I couldn't help it. I didn't know what it was I wanted. I only knew I wanted. I wanted like a hunger in the heart that never gets food. Okay, she's still with that, right? Something cried dumb in me. She still doesn't understand the language. And she is this close to being a real American, right? All she needs to do is the language. She needs the opportunity. She gets it. Okay, an English class for foreigners starting in our factory. The teacher had such a good, friendly face. Her eyes looked so understanding, as if she could see right into my heart. So I went to her one day for advice. I don't know what is the matter, I began. I have no rest in me. I never yet done what I want. What is it you want to do, child? I want to do something with my head, my feelings, all day long. Only with my hands I work. First, you must learn English. Okay. Put your mind on that, and then we'll see. So for a time I learned the language. I could almost begin to think with English words in my head. But in my heart, the emptiness still hurt. I burned to give something, to do something, to be something. The dead work in my hands was killing me. My work left only hard stones in my heart. All right, so she's becoming American, right? She has an American job. She wears American clothes. She's learning the language, but there's still something missing. Okay, what could it be that it is missing? Okay, she's changing, but there's still something there that she needs. Okay. America isn't quite what she thought it would be. Let's look at 2323. We're going to look at 2323 right here. Okay. Give me a second. Let me make sure I'm not skipping something that I wanted to tell you. Actually, no, you know what? 2322. Okay. When she keeps being asked, what do you want? What is it you want? And she says, I want America to want me. She wants to feel at home in America. Okay, keep that one in mind because that's really important. Okay, if we look at 2223 though, she has very good points, and this is a point that keeps being brought up over and over and over again. Okay, this isn't a point here with prisons and the way the prisoners are treated. This isn't anything new. Okay, this goes back all the way back to Dickens. It goes back even before then. But if you look at 2323, she's chatting with somebody, and she says, America gives free bread and rent to criminals in prison. They got grand houses with sunshine, fresh air, doctors and teachers, even for the crazy ones. Why don't they have free boarding schools for immigrants, strong people, willing people? Here you see us burning with something different, and America turns her head away from us. Okay? Is that something I want to leave you all with right now? Is that a viable argument? Okay, people argue it right now because they say that prisoners have it good. I tell those people, really research what's going on in jails and see if they have it as good as you think they do. Okay, because I can tell you right now, she had these very idealistic thoughts on prison, because the prisons during this time were not that great. Okay, unfortunately, we don't chat about prisons and the prison system in this class. But when I teach British literature, I tell them what prison is like. Okay, I read to them. I say, guys, in this prison, you had men, women, children, everybody in the same group. Okay, you could be executed for forging money. You're not executed now in this country for forging money. You could before then. They would execute people for the weirdest crimes. Okay, so I want y'all to keep that in mind and to think about what you believe on this idea that prisoners get free reign and people who deserve it don't. Think of that. Think about it. I'm not going to discuss it. I want to know what you all think. Okay? This response is great. I love the response she gets. America is no utopia. First, you must become efficient in learning a living before you can indulge in your poetic dreams. And I love that little sentence. America is no utopia. Okay, there is no idealized America. You have to come to America and you have to work harder than you did in your own country. We learned that in the jungle and we're learning that here as well. Okay, and that burst her bubble. Till now, if you look at, still 23, till now there had always lingered a rosy veil of hope over my emptiness, a hope that a miracle would happen. I would open my eyes and someday suddenly find the America of my dreams. As a young girl hungry for love always sees before her eyes a picture of her lover's arms around her, so I saw always in my heart the vision of utopian America. But now I felt that the America of my dreams never was and never could be. Reality had hit me on the head with a club. I felt that the America that I sought was nothing but a shadow, an echo, a chimera of lunatics and crazy immigrants. Stripped of my illusion, I looked about me. The long desert of wasting days of drudgery stared at me in the face. The drudgery that I had lived through and the endless drudgery still ahead of me rose over me like a withering wilderness of sand. In vain were all my cryings, in vain were all my frantic efforts of my spirit to find the living waters of understanding for my perishing lips. Sand was everywhere. With every seeking, every reaching out, I only lost myself deeper and deeper in the vast sea of sand. I knew now the American language, and I knew now if I talked to the Americans from morning till night, they could not understand what the Russian soul in me wanted. They could not understand me any more than if I talked to them in Chinese. Between my soul and the American soul were worlds of differences that no words could ever bridge over. What was the difference? What made the Americans so far apart from me? Okay, two things I want to bring up here. Three things, of course. Number one is this bursting bubble, right? There is no utopia in America. America is not perfect. Okay, we know this, number one. But number two, this idea of deserts, that America is a desert, that she will not have the water that she needs. Very Eliot-ish, right? Okay, very like the Hollow Man, very Eliot-ish that we've read already. Okay, and then this idea, the last paragraph that I read to you all, that they could not understand the Russian soul of me wanted. Because we often think, right, that if we're able to get this job, if we have this degree, if we're able just to buy this, it'll be better. Okay, and so much for her as an immigrant for Russia, she thought the same thing, right? But she's suffered a lot. She's been through a lot. And even though we're not quite told what she's gone through, you can imagine that she's been through quite a bit in Russia. Okay, she's been through quite a bit in Russia, but right now, she's like, they don't understand what I went through. They don't understand why this was so important to me. Okay, so she's been othered. Let's go to 23, 24. Okay, I was forever begging a crumb of sympathy, a gleam of understanding from strangers who could not understand. When I encountered a few savage Indian scalpers like the old witch of the sweatshop, like my Americanized countrymen who cheated me out of wages. When I found myself on the lonely, untrodden path through which all seekers of the new world must pass, lost my heart and said, there is no America. Then came a light, a great revelation. I saw America, a big idea, a deathless hope, a world still in the making. Okay, let's stop right there. Okay? Right there. Okay. She goes from this despair. She goes in despair that she's like, there is no America. Okay, there's no utopia. There is no America. But pay attention to this. Okay, remember, she comes to the States. She comes stateside and she's like, America is going to be this land of opportunity. I'm going to have a good job. I'm going to earn enough money to have a little room. She's going to get her little dress and her little hat. Okay, that was the idea of America. But when that dream goes away, okay, this is very Hamilton-ish, right? If you all know of Hamilton, the musical, okay, I saw that it was the glory of America that is not yet finished. And I, the last comer, had her share to give, small or great, to the making of America, like those pilgrims who came in the Mayflower. Fired up by this revealing light, I began to build a bridge of understanding between American-born and myself. Since their life was shut out from such as me, I began to open up my life and the lives of my people to them. And life draws life. And in only writing about the ghetto, I found America. Okay. And this is why I love this story, because yes, it's very sad, and yes, she goes through a lot of abuse from her bosses, but at the end she's like, you know what? America is not a utopia. This is not a perfect country. And I've told you this. I love this country. I came back to this country for a reason. But it's not perfect. Okay? But she says, you know what? We could improve on it. America, okay, the glory of America will never be finished. Okay, we're going to keep changing, and every person who comes into the United States puts something different in it. Okay? I'm sure that you all have seen that meme, right, in America, that you drive a Japanese car, you wear, in my case, British boots. You drive a Japanese car, you wear British boots, you go out to eat with your boyfriend, you go to a Japanese restaurant, and you come home and sleep under blankets that were made in Mexico. Okay, thick winter blankets that some of us have. Okay, and I told you all, this is the great thing about the United States. You don't see this, you really don't see this cosmopolitan anywhere else. Okay, I've been to the largest cities in Europe, and yes, of course, yes, in London, you will see, like, there's a Mexican restaurant in London. Okay, we got guacamole, it was pretty good. Okay, you'll see that little bits of London, little bits of cosmopolitanism in London, but not as much as you see it here. And even in the smallest city, right, in the United States, you still see, like, you're like, wow, I'm in Ohio and I'm eating at this great Korean restaurant. Okay, but I love the ending to this. I feel it is incredibly, it is a very happy ending. It is a very hopeful ending. Okay, I hope that you all enjoyed it as well, because that's what America's gonna be. She's gonna give something to America, and she's gonna make it better. Okay, I really, like I said, hope that you all enjoyed it, because Michael Gold is pretty sad, isn't it? We are going to be reading a couple of works about Jews, about Judaism and Jews, American Judaism. We're going to be reading this, and we're going to be reading Mouse. Okay, but for this one right here, you read that this is a smaller work this is a short work and a very larger work. Okay, The Soul of the Landlord. Okay, from Jews Without Money. One of the stereotypes, and we've talked about very painful stereotypes and how they impact very negatively. Okay, one of the stereotypes of Jewish people is that they're rich. Okay, that's a stereotype. Later on, I will post posters of Nazi propaganda. Okay, but one of the ones that the Nazis used is that they're rich and they don't want to lend out money. Okay, but Michael Gold right off says, hey, we were Jewish and we were broke. Okay, he says that right off the bat. Okay, and we find this story right here. Okay, that it begins, okay, after the end of the Panic on Wall Street. Okay, when we read Babylon Revisited by Fitzgerald so long ago, right? I told you all that was the rich person's story that takes place after the Panic on Wall Street, right? The rich people. Charlie becomes rich again. This is the poor people. This is what we would call the common people. Guys, this would be us. Okay? If we have another Panic on Wall Street, which I really hope we don't, this would be us. We'd be broke. Okay? Life 2326. And I like Michael Gold because Michael Gold doesn't try to sugarcoat anything. Okay, he writes, life froze. The sun vanished from the deathly gray sky. The streets reeked with snow and slush. There were hundreds of evictions. I walked down a street between the dripping tenement walls. The rotten slush ate through my shoes. The wind beat on my face. I saw a stack of furniture before a tenement. Tables, chairs, a wash tub filled with crockery and bedclothes, a broom, a dresser, a lamp. The snow covered them. The snow fell too on a little Jew and his wife and 3 children. They huddled in a mournful group by their possessions. They had placed a saucer on one of the tables. An old woman with a market bag mumbled a prayer in passing. She dropped a penny in the saucer. Other people did the same. Each time, the evicted family lowered its eyes in shame. They were not beggars, but respectable people. But if enough pennies fell from the saucer, they might have rent for a new home. This was the one hope left them. Winter. Building a snow fort one morning, we boys dug out a litter of frozen kittens and their mother. The little ones were still blind. They had been born into it, but had never seen our world. Other dogs and cats were frozen. Men and women, too, were found dead in hallways and in docks. Mary Sugarbone met her end in an alley. She was found half naked, clutching a whiskey bottle in her blue claw. Horses slipped on icy pavement and quivered there for hours with broken legs until a policeman arrived to shoot them. Okay. We talked about the idealized America, right? People are gonna have money. Then we see this. This is the reality, the horrible, cold reality of the United States after the panic on Wall Street and after we had the Wall Street crash. Okay, this is raw. It's painful to read. It's uncomfortable to read, particularly when he states that they were respectable people. Okay, they're people down on their luck, right? And right now, how timely is it that we're reading this right now when we have, I believe, I read that millions of people right now are filing for unemployment because of this coronavirus thing, and those of us who have jobs that are able to work from home. Okay, we're really, really, really blessed right now to have this. We know this, and we know people who are losing their jobs and who right now are freaking out. The waiters, the waitresses, the people who work in bars. What are they gonna do? Okay, this is the reality, and how timely is it that we're reading this now? And hopefully this won't last very long. Remember I told you that after the crash of 1929, was it the 50s that we got back on track? So hopefully this won't happen then, okay? And if this is happening to you, okay, it's my hope that this gets better, okay? Okay. 2327, the very bottom, we meet Mrs. Rosenbaum, okay, the grocery store owner who gives out groceries on credit. I'm crazy to do it, she grumbled in her icy stole. I'm a fool, but when a child comes for a loaf of bread and I have the bread and I know her family's starving, how can I refuse her? Yet I have my own children to think about. I'm being ruined. The store is being emptied. I can't meet my bills. She was kind. Kindness is a form of suicide in a world based on the law of competition. Right? We often think that if you have good things, if you do good things, then good things will come to you. Kindness is a form of suicide in a world based on the law of competition. Okay? And you think, oh, Mrs. Rosenbaum, right? She gives out bread. Things will be okay with her. One day, though, we watched the rewards of her kindness. The sheriff's men arrived to seize Mrs. Rosenbaum's groceries. They tore down the shelves and fixtures. They carted off tubs of butter, drums of kerosene, sacks of rice, flour, and potatoes. Mrs. Rosenbaum stood by watching her own funeral. Okay, right? And that's not only her own funeral, but the funeral of her children, because her job is gone. She's not going to have any more money. How is she going to feed her kids? Her fat, kind face was swollen with crying with a toothache. Her eyes blinked in bewilderment. Her children clung to her skirts and cried. Snow fell from the sky, a crowd muttering its sympathies. A policeman twirled his club. What happened to her after that? I don't know. Maybe the organized charities helped her, or maybe she died. Or, oh, golden, dyspeptic God of America, you were in a bad mood that winter. We were poor and you punished us harshly for the worst of sins. Okay. That's hard to read as well. Okay, because you think, hey, America, right? America, you're able to have this safety net. Okay, and I hear sometimes a lot of people tell me, oh, this welfare and unemployment, and why should we have to pay for that? Because even with the safety nets that we have right now, people still suffer, right? I mean, we talked about that in the jungle. You lose your job, you don't quite know what to do, who's going to pay the mortgage. Safety nets are there, but no safety nets. Okay, they still don't know what happened to her. Okay, hopefully the organized charities helped her. Hopefully. But we don't know what happened. That's something that's going to stick with you all, I think, okay? Alright, so the protagonist, he talks about his mother. I love his mom. His mom is great. Her name's Katie, right? Is it Katie? I think her name's Katie. Sorry, I was rereading Tree Girls in Brooklyn, and the mom's name is Katie there. I don't want to say. Alright, so let's read about his mom. 2328. His father is ill. Right? His father shattered. His shattered feet ached in each bone. Pain or sickness came to him. He suffered with his lung and kidney pains. He was a painter. The paint still had lead. So yeah, he's a very sick individual. So what's Katie gonna do? Mama. Let's call her Mama from now on because I love that the workers call her Mama. Let's look at part 4. My mother feared to go out to work in a cafeteria among Christians. Okay, remember she's Jewish. The prejudice, the hatred against Jewish people was still incredibly, it was still very common, even in New York, in the United States. But after a few days, she settled easily into the life of a polyglot kitchen and learned to fight, scold, and mother the Poles, the Germans, the Italians, the Irish, and the Negroes who worked there. They liked her and soon called her Mama, which made her vain. You should hear how a big black dishwasher named Joe, how he comes to me today and says, Mama, I'm going to quit. Everyone is against me here because I am black, he says. The whole world is against us black people. So I said to him, Joe, I am not against you. Don't be foolish. Don't go out and be a bum again. The trouble with you is you are lazy. If you would work harder than the others like you too, do it like you too. So he said, Mama, all right, I'll stay. And this is how it is in the restaurant. They call me Mama, even the black ones. It was a large, high-priced cafeteria for businessmen on Lower Broadway. My mother was a chef's helper and peeled and scoured tons of vegetables for cooking. Her wages were $7 an hour. Okay, so you see that she becomes their mom, right? I love that line, by the way, and I want to end this part of the lecture with that. They call her Mama. Okay, so she's mothering them as well as much as she does her family. I'm going to pick up there in the next lecture, in the next video. Okay, so let's take a break right now, and we're going to go on to part 3 in a bit.